Today we're going to talk about what is the formula for settlement in a personal injury case. We will get calls from folks who are trying to settle their case on their own, or they want to know what is our own methodology for recommending a settlement range. And so they will say things to us like, I heard that you take the medical bills, you add them up, and you multiply by 3, or by 2, or by 4. What is the formula? Well, I hope this comes as no surprise to you, but there really is no formula for settling personal injury claims. Why is that? Well, personal injury claims, when they go to trial, are determined by juries. Juries decide how much money the plaintiff will be awarded, and they're not given any formula book. Instead, they're given evidence and a list of items of damage that they may consider, and then they arrive in their own mind what your case is worth. So what that tells us is that while there is no formula for settlement in a personal injury case, there is definitely a methodology, a way of looking at cases that are engaged in both by the insurance company who's making the offer and by the personal injury attorney who is making the recommendation for settlement. So let's talk a little bit about that. Ultimately, the question that both the insurance company and your lawyer are doing is answering the question, what would a jury do with your case? And in order to answer that, at least from the insurance company's perspective, what they are doing is keeping track of thousands and tens of thousands of cases a year across the country. And for each case that they settle, or each case that goes to a jury and a jury awards an amount of money, they have all sorts of data, including what are the injuries being claimed, what are the medical bills. That certainly is a part of the data, although not part of a formula. Is there any scarring? What did the person do for a living? How much time did they miss off of work? Do they have any permanent disability? And they take all of those numbers and put them into their database, and then they can extract from that database knowledge and information about what juries in the same or similar circumstance in your location, in your particular city or town, have done with that. And they also know how successful they have been in settling cases with same or similar type injuries and the same or similar type picture of the overall case, of how successful they've been in settling those cases in your area. So that teaches us a couple of things. First, only your state matters, or really, let's say your city, town matters. What that means is that, you may have a case in Virginia, but you hear about somebody in California or New York who received a certain amount of money for a broken ankle, and you say, well, how come my case isn't worth that? What we're looking at is what, in our situation, what Northern Virginia juries have done in the past, cases involving a broken ankle. Okay, that is the marketplace. So the jury is the marketplace. We also know that the insurance companies have really the most information about this. Why? Because they are the ones settling more cases than any lawyers possibly could. Doesn't mean they're right all the time, but it means as a statistical matter, they're going to have the most information about what has gone on in the past. Let's talk about some of the intangibles that go into an evaluation of the case, and there really are two big ones from the insurance company's standpoint. And they want to know, who is your doctor and who is your lawyer. Now, I told you that the insurance companies keep track of everything, so they have these big databases, and they know, for example, which doctors are the overtreaters, and thus their bills are sort of susceptible to challenge at trial in front of a jury. They know which doctors make bad witnesses. They also know, of course, which doctors make good witnesses. And here's something you might not have thought of, but you know, there's a lot of lawyers that make referrals of clients to doctors. So you may go into a lawyer's office, he's got a stack of chiropractor cards or orthopedic cards. This is something that you'll never know unless you go to trial, but it can be really the kiss of death to your case. Because if your lawyer is one who refers lots and lots of claimants to the same doctor, I can guarantee you that on cross-examination at trial, that is going to look bad, okay? So a doctor is saying you have a certain injury and he's had to treat you for X number of dollars, and it comes out in the middle of trial that he gets 10 patients a month from your lawyer. The argument is going to be made that that doctor is shading his testimony to favor your lawyer. So you need to ask that question of your lawyer. If you are getting a referral to a doctor, you need to know how many times has that lawyer referred to that doctor, how many patients a year, a month, because it can be vital to your case. Second thing the insurance company is going to want to know is, who is your lawyer? Because they keep track of these couple of things. They know which lawyers settle everything. That's important because they know that some lawyers will never go to trial, and so they can be convinced to take a lower amount of money for your case. They keep track of this stuff. The other thing they know is your lawyer a specialist? That's important again because the insurance company is making an evaluation of how likely it is your lawyer will do a great job if you have to go to trial. Remember that while most of these cases settle, a certain percentage will go to trial every year, and you're going to want to go to trial with someone who's an experienced specialist, not someone who's a general practitioner who dabbles in personal injury claims, not someone who's doing a divorce one week and a personal injury trial the next. You're going to want to go with a specialist in order to have the best chance. The insurance company is keeping track of that, and it goes into their calculus when they are making you settlement offers. Okay, so let's talk about what goes into your lawyer's evaluation. Typically, a lawyer will, the good ones anyway, are not going to be able to tell you what your case is worth until you've finished your treatment. They've received all the doctor reports, the medical bills, information from your employer. They perhaps have spoken to your doctor about the nature and extent of your injury, and then your lawyer is going to make you a settlement evaluation. Usually that settlement evaluation will come to you in writing before any demand is made on the insurance company. In fact, you should ask for it in writing. What the what your lawyer is doing is very similar to what the insurance company is doing, is that he or she is saying to themselves, what would a jury do? And the lawyer is often, an experienced personal injury lawyer is often in a very great position to be able to tell you, look, in my city or town, or in other cities or towns where I've tried a lot of cases, I think your case is worth between X and Y. Some of the other things that personal injury lawyers do is they, of course, subscribe to publications that report jury verdicts, that report settlements. They talk to their colleagues at lawyer meetings, things like that. Again, what this all says for you, the consumer, is that you want a lawyer. If he's going to represent you in a personal injury claim, you want a lawyer who is in the game, who is sort of in the thick of it in terms of seeing and being exposed to a lot of personal injury trials and settlements, and so that he or she can give you a fairly accurate range of settlement for your case. Now, at the end of the day, nothing is perfect. At the end of the day, when you go to trial and the case is submitted to the jury, ultimately all this is up to the jury. As I said at the beginning of this Legal Academy lesson, the jury has no formula. The jury will hear and see the evidence, listen to the arguments of the lawyers, they'll evaluate you and your injury, listening to the testimony of your doctors, and ultimately they're given a set of jury instructions from the judge that tells them how to go about deciding the case, what the rules of the law are, what the elements of the damages are. But ultimately, at the end of the day, remember, no formula for the jury.